Is there a strange way people shorten the name of McDonald's where you live? If so, how? Mickey D's, McDick's, Macca's, Donken, Sweden, Sneaky Ronstedt. There seems to be some connection between 88 and Nazis that I'm not aware of. I promise the 88 inches my name is for the year that I was born and nothing more. Thank you, smiley face. McDo, McDick's. That's what my teen and his friends say. We used to call it Rotten Ronnie's. McD's, Maki, Makari, Finland. Macy's. Pretty standard for the UK. Meg's, Maggie's, Germany. Don's, Denmark here. Lots of people call it Maxon. When I was younger, I heard a lot of people call it Den Gildne Mage, which translates to the Golden Seagull. Whack Arnold's, De Mac, the Netherlands. Decided to ask because, in countries with big Russian-speaking minorities, it is often called by people McDuck, the same as the Disney character. Edit, grammar. McDanks.
What's the best thing about the US? The national parks are on a different level of simply amazing. The Americans with Disabilities Act is seriously some of the best handicap accessibility protection in the world. A paraplegic person can wheel themselves into pretty much any commercial building in the country and be confident that there will be ramps in all the right places and a restroom they can use. If there aren't, there are powerful tools to make it happen. That's not the case in a lot of places in the world, and it wasn't that long ago that it wasn't the case here. Wide open space. Seriously. Go west and you can get to places that are so remote and so beautiful, with big blue skies during the day and star-filled nights. I beg people to get off Reddit and actually spend time in their neighborhoods or actually talk to people. Americans are incredibly resilient, hard-working people who always want to see improvement. We know we're not perfect, but FFS, the smallest story about America bad, will flood the front page, and anything seen as success is treated as the ills of capitalism in America. If you visit any American city, you'll see that it's very progressive, and people are happy, polite and want everyone to be who they are. It's easy to get trapped in the clickbait headlines, but remember that Reddit is a big karma farm and doesn't reflect real life. I came from a very poor upbringing, a large urban public school, and was able to graduate college and create a pretty comfortable life for myself. I'm not rich by any means, but my life is pretty good. I don't think I could have had this life if I lived in other parts of the world. Visit an American park on a Saturday. At least where I live you'll find diversity, resources, friendly people, families, and no judgment. We're not what the extreme right wants us to be, and we never will. We don't wait for the government to do something for us. If we want something, we build it. And if people like it, they support it. You can't stop an ambitious American. I'll kindly accept your down votes now. USA is a great place to be an engineer. We pay our engineers better than any other country. If you can get a relatively inexpensive degree in engineering, then you can most likely swing middle class no problem. I really like the diversity in this country. How anyone can be an American. And you have no idea who is American and who is not. That's my favorite thing. You have no idea who is just sightseeing, who is visiting family, who is here on a student visa versus who is actually American. So, until someone says otherwise, we are going to assume you are American. Doesn't matter how thick your accent is. Doesn't matter how you dress. You are American until otherwise noticed. Also, I love how quickly we adopt things from our immigrants and declare it American. It's like, what are you eating? Is it delicious? Let me try some of that. Oh, God, this is delicious. Go open up a restaurant. More people should be eating. And now it's part of the American fabric. I love how the American tongue is such a mutt language. How quickly we adapt non-English words and more often than not pronounce them how they would be pronounced in their native tongue. Why don't try make them more English like the way the French will French up foreign words? I like how it's easy to correct an American by saying, it's actually pronounced this way. And they will have a go at trying to say it correctly rather than huff and puff and try to make you change the way you say it. Language is so adaptable here. It's far more forgiving than other languages. You can butcher itup here, and as long as we understand the idea of what you are trying to convey, you will get a pass. I think it's why it is such a juggernaut on a stage. Yes, we have language rules, but the native speakers will mostly ignore them in order to communicate better. I moved to Germany almost 3 years ago, and I can't tell you what I miss. How damn friendly Americans are. I feel like entertainment is something the US does extremely well. Want to go to a show? The US has you covered regardless of how niche your taste is. Having lived in Southeast Asia for the last couple of years, disability rights and accessibility is pretty amazing in the United States. Also, people on both the right and the left feel like the fucking sky is falling in America, but again, living outside the United States, you realize how good most people have it. Everybody say it together, the national parks. Our neighbor down the road fled Sudan in the 1980s and made it to the US as a refugee. She lost her father, 2 brothers, and most of her extended family as they were related to the wrong political leader that was killed. Her mother and 2 sisters arrived with literally nothing in the late 80s. She is now a nurse making $100K a year, married to a firefighter with 3 kids, living on a property with 8 acres and a 5-bedroom house. One sister is a schoolteacher and the other manages a Barnes & Noble. That is pretty cool. Huge variety of grocery products. The ability to get in your vehicle and drive wherever you want to see the vast natural beauty of the US and to experience the diversity of different regions and ways of life. I hear the barbecue is pretty good. If you are disabled, the US is insanely accommodating. I haven't seen any other country top it yet.
Hotel staff of Reddit. What's the most NSFW moment you witnessed at your hotel? I wasn't working at this hotel and was just a guest, but I wish I had asked the staff for the backstory. I'm checking into my hotel in Los Angeles and was given my keycard. Head to the room, open the door, and there's a naked buff dude standing next to the bed just staring at me. He says nothing. Apologize and quickly leave, assuming somehow I'd gotten the wrong room. I go back to the front desk and say, "I'm sorry, but I think you gave me the wrong room." There's a naked man already in there. The worker at the front desk says, "Hit, not again." He pulls out his walkie-talkie and says, "Security?" They assigned me to a different room and I was on my way. I work overnights in a relatively small hotel, and at least 6-7 stays a week, I hear people ucking loud as hell in their rooms. Half the rooms have a balcony that overlooks the lobby, and those doors aren't soundproof at all. We had a man sleepwalk out of his room to the lobby, buck-ass nude. We had a woman show up in the lobby in her underwear. Her BF choked her out and stole her wallet with the room keys, and before I started here, there was a massive wedding that took place, and later that night, the groom killed his bride and himself in their room. I was a night auditor at a home 2 suites several years back. Our usual extended stay clientele were traveling nurses, government contractors, or out off-town veterans getting something done at the VA hospital. But we had one guy and girl on the first floor for a few weeks that were odd. It took us Abbott to realize it was a hooker and her pimp. John would come to see her, and the guy who rented the room would come out to hang in the lobby or go smoke at our fire pit. Our manager was a bit clueless and took longer to figure it out, but once she did, she went and knocked on the door to ask them to leave. He only cracked the door so she couldn't see inside the room. He declined housekeeping for 2 straight weeks, but she managed to see an office chair behind him that had 2 handguns and a huge Rambo knife on it, so she called the cops. I came up later that day to pick up my check to find cops had surrounded the building. Turns out he barricaded himself in the room and held the prostitute hostage, so SWAT had to come tear gas him through the window and use a battering ram to get inside. The owners fired our manager for that, for letting the ex-work go on so long and the optics of cops swarming our hotel. I used to work as a bartender for the 4 Seasons in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Here's my story. Late night, 1:30-ish a.m., and we are getting ready to close the bar. A very attractive woman, aged about 30, approaches. My buddy and I tell her that we are about to close up, but can offer her a drink if she wants. She seems drunk already, and for a moment, before whipping out a $20 bill and handing it to me. She asks for a Negroni. I say sure, and begin to make it. As I am putting the ice into the mixer, I see my buddy give me a funny look, a shocked sort of look. I ask him what's up, on to side eyes towards the woman. Lo and behold, I turn around and there she is, it's out, rubbing her nipples. I ask her kindly to leave, and I cannot serve her. She walks away, but not before discarding of her sports bra and calling Maya SPCK. That is my crazy NSFW story. Had an underage girl naked from the waist down speed walking around the hotel and casino looking for her mom. She was absolutely hammered and in full blackout. Me and another supervisor caught up to her just as she was getting into an elevator full of drunk dudes telling her they would help her find her mom. Her mom was not at the casino and we never determined where she actually came from. Just appeared there, moving like a speedwalker, naked except for a tank top. I was a night shift security guard for a motel right next to the biggest casino in my state. It was common for drug addicts to hang out around the property. One time, this guy staying in a room did a little too much meth and had a freak out. He was running around the walkways naked. I had to ward him away from people's rooms so they wouldn't be disturbed. He ended up jumping off the second-story balcony and splatting on the pavement. He scampered up and hauled SS across the street into a car dealership. Not my problem anymore. I'm working night shift as a receptionist and had my fair share of questionable encounters. One night, a guy comes from outside and asks if he could use our restroom. It's located one floor down, and every time we let someone in at night, we kind of scan the person before letting them in, and I didn't get any crazy vibes from this dude. After about 20 to 20 minutes, I got the feeling maybe everything wasn't talk and went downstairs. When approaching the bathrooms, I could hear him inside the handicapped toilet and the door was open a bit. He was on his knees with his pants down, masturbating and sucking on the door handle while watching Orn on his phone. I yelled at him and asked what the hell he's doing but could get in contact with him, so I grabbed a towel and threw it over his face to break line of sight. I told him to leave immediately or I would call the police. I went upstairs and after a few minutes he left the building. That one sticks out for me. Not witnessed, but saw a portion on camera. A guest was walking the halls with a machete. He proceeds to go into his room. A few minutes later, the guest next door can be seen pounding on his door. The previous night he had assaulted the woman he was staying there with. I'm assuming they thought he was abusing her again. The neighbors started back to their room when the guest throws the woman out of the room, with her arm barely attached, spraying blood all over the walls and floor. He doesn't notice the door shut behind him, and he takes off running. He was caught very quickly in a parking lot next door. That room was something I'll never forget. Blood and flesh on the bed and floor. Boss said to tell housekeeping to clean it up. Quit a few days later. I worked at a hotel in a resort town in Europe. One of the maids called me to a room for help because it has been the location of an extremely messy orgy from the touring ice show. The room was covered in bodily secretions and excreta. There were used condoms thrown everywhere and half the furniture was busted. The poor maid was in tears. She'd have to clean it. The hotel management called in a professional cleaning company who wore disposable suits, respirators and eye protection. They got rid of most of the stuff in the room and charged a fortune to the ice show. Many years ago worked at a very nice casino resort as a valet. Regular pulled up in his nice BMW and went to help. Wrote up his ticket, got his keys and offered to help load up his luggage on a bell cart while we waited for a bellman. Opened the trunk and went to lift the suitcase. Andy about threw my back out. I wasn't prepared to be so heavy. Gave it another go and heaved it onto the bell cart and heard a sound. Mr. XXXDID, your suitcase just make an oof sound. Long story short, a prostitute who was banned from the property was stowed away in there to get up to his room. Worked at Hyatt in Toronto. Management sent me up to a room they knew contained a pimp. Big fur coat, grills, giant chains, and of course his employees. They did not warn me of this beforehand. If they did, I wouldn't have gone alone. His employees were both topless and apparently celebrating a birthday and tried very hard to get me to join. Just needed them to not get another noise complaint because I did not want to have to evict them. Edit. Grammar. So not hotel staff, but this story fits the bill for what you're asking. I was a pizza delivery boy. Fleabag Motel in our town. We get a call for a pizza delivery. Blah blah blah. I get the order, I drive it over and knock on the room door. Guy answers the door wearing only a towel, and I right past him and there's a beautiful @SS naked black woman laying on the bed on full display. She notices me looking, I'm sure, and just says, "How you doing, baby?" Not baby in a way like you would call a lover, or like she was flirting, but more in a motherly way. I looked up at the dude after that and he gave me a look like, that's right, I just got done hitting that. Not staff, but once just outside my room, like 2 doors, someone pass out drunk and hit himself, liquid hit, huge pool. At least 2 meters diameter. The hotel changed everyone on the floor to other rooms and other floors. I saw someone mop without putting out the sign. Definitely not safe for work. Well, let's see. One time a guy left his recently used fleshlight in the room he was in. Never heard from him again. This other time someone left hardcore hentai mag in the room hidden under a cabinet. Then there was this other time a guy was smoking weed in his room, and when I knocked on high store due to a complaint, the guy offered me a blunt. I did security for a hotel for a number of years. I've seen naked guests locked out of their rooms, wedding parties break into the pool area and jump in fully clothed. Had a drunk woman climb out her 3rd floor window and chill on the roof just below. Worst was when someone drowned in the lake beside the hotel and they hadn't found the body yet. Round sucked because I was afraid I'd find the body. I used to work at a hotel. Thankfully I never witnessed anything in person, but I was certainly privy to a lot more info than I ever cared to know. One day a young man came in, asking for a room. Sure, we have availability, and I went over rooms and pricing. He said, let me ask my chick. I didn't pay too much attention to his wording. Few minutes later he came back and got registered in, and I thanked him and said I hoped him and his girlfriend had a nice stay and let me know if there's anything else I can do for them. Nah man, she's not my girlfriend, he replied. I apologized. Again, I didn't pay too much attention to his wording earlier, so I simply said I was sorry, I misunderstood. He replied, just 'cause I know doesn't make her my girlfriend. But my alls are full. I simply replied, sir, I hope you have a pleasant stay. I really didn't need to know all that. He certainly didn't need to tell me that. I really didn't know how else to reply. But I am probably safe in assuming that he and, well, it wasn't his girlfriend, but her, regardless of their relationship status, certainly did have a good night. Although again, I really didn't need to know about it. I used to work third shift at a hotel while going to university. One weekend every summer our city hosted a tournament for the National Softball Association for the Deaf. One night I got multiple noise complaints and went upstairs. In one of the rooms, a man and woman were having the loudest, most bestial X you could possibly imagine. You could hear it from 30 meters down the hall. They weren't answering the phone and obviously couldn't hear me knocking. I used a master key to crack open the door and was even more amazed at the pure volume and complete eliatonal and unabashed moans, grunts, and yowls. Being careful not to stick my head in, I reached inside the room and flipped the lights on and off. Then pretty much ran away. It's a shame people complained because I hated to interrupt what must have been a good time. Eastern Idaho, night audit and front desk. During a state high school wrestling tournament, I heard a commotion in the sauna around 2 a.m. Grabbed the night audit baseball bat and went to see what was going on. Found 20 to 30 teen boys either stark naked or in BVDs camping out in a sauna with room for 6. They were obviously trying to sweat down. Make weight. A couple of months later, I heard a guy yelling from the closed indoor pool at around 4 a.m. He'd stuck his Johnson in a drain hole on the side of the pool, and it got stuck. I assessed he wasn't an immediate danger and called the fire department. He wasn't free when I left at 6. Worked on a show in a Las Vegas casino. During the AVN's Adult Movie Awards show, a top actress committed our show with her boyfriend. Show was held because she started lifting her shirt to show the audience her breasts. Then she went down on the boyfriend. As security finally arrived, they were having full on X while sitting in the audience. He went to get drinks, ditching her. She bit a security guard in the arm so hard that she hit bone. Eventually she was carried out and arrested. I'm sure the boyfriend was as well. Their awards show was the next day, but she missed it to being in jail. This was a Cirque du Soleil show, definitely not the place for this behavior.